Hi there, it's Jane from Equiculture here. In this video I'm going to talk about a subject that we at Equiculture get really excited about, and once people understand how simple and effective it is, they also get really excited by it. The subject is horses and the magic of mulch. So this vision of an ideal horse property with our horses grazing healthy pasture, with good ground coverage, with no bare soil, no mud, dust or weeds, unfortunately, we don't always end up with what we envisage. On many horse properties, the reality is bare soil caused by horses standing around for hours at a time and by overgrazing. We get tracking lines on many parts of the property. We get bare areas around the gates. These bare areas turn to mud in the rain and become dust in dry weather, and the bare areas invite weeds into the property. The thing you need to think about is that if you've got bare soil anywhere on your property, nature doesn't like bare soil. So if there is any bare soil, nature tries to cover it with plants, usually weeds in the first place, as weeds are great opportunists. Having said that, not all plants we think of as weeds are harmful. Many can be beneficial, but more on that in another video. Bare soil leads to mud, dust and erosion, so nature tries to cover it with anything to try to preserve and protect the soil. However, there's an easy and maybe unexpected fix for this, and that's where mulching comes in. Mulching is a very simple and very effective way of getting more desirable plants to grow. Mulching is a really simple strategy for improving pasture without involving heavy machinery, without involving ploughing and reseeding, so without needing to disturb the soil. You can simply protect your soil with mulch and let nature do the rest. It has many benefits. So, to mulch bare areas, you can use old weed-free hay, shavings, manure, wood chips from the local council, in fact anything at all, rather than leaving that soil bare. So if you see a patch of bare soil, you need to cover it with something organic if you can, because an organic material will break down over time and at the same time protect that area. By organic, we mean something that will break down or decompose. Please be sure to give this video the thumbs up, and if you'd like to become a more knowledgeable horse owner, make sure you subscribe to this channel and hit the bell to be notified when a new video becomes available every week. So, on to mulching. You can see an area here that's been mulched, and as I've already said, it protects the soil from weeds, erosion and moisture loss in the same way as what happens when you mulch your garden. It covers the bare soil, it keeps the wind and the rain and the sun off the bare soil, and protects the soil from blowing away or washing away in bad weather. It insulates the soil from the weather. In winter it keeps the soil warm, and in summer it keeps the soil cool. And not just the soil, but all the creatures and microorganisms in the soil, the beetles, the worms, fungi, etc., that live in there and are vital for healthy soil, but don't like these extreme temperature ranges, so this mulch insulates them all from the weather extremes. It traps moisture, so if you look at the picture here, the top of the mulch is dry, but underneath this is moist and dark. This mulch has been down for about 18 months in a really dry period in Australia, so there's been no rain for many months. The top of the mulch stayed very dry. Underneath, the moisture was trapped there, and the microorganisms and the bugs and the fungi were able to start doing their work, protected from the elements. It suppresses and prevents weeds because this layer of mulch, just as in the same way that you mulch your garden to keep the weeds off, it also keeps weeds off your pasture because the weeds can't get established in there, and it can suppress the growth of any weeds that are already there. It provides very much needed organic matter for a horse property. Horse properties are often lacking in organic matter due to poor land management in the past, so mulch breaks down and adds vital organic matter to the soil, which is really what you should be trying to achieve. It provides a habitat for very important creatures in the soil, such as earthworms. Again, earthworms can't work in bare, hot, dry soil, so this moist, protected environment allows them to do their work. The real bonus is that if you use old hay, and it doesn't matter how old or mouldy the hay is, the hay contains thousands of grass seeds for free, as well as providing a perfect environment for successful germination. Of course, if you're using old mouldy hay, you wouldn't be letting the horses eat it first, but that hay is still invaluable just to place on the ground and let it do its own thing. If you don't want your horses to be on the area once you've covered it with mulch, then all you need to do is put a temporary electric fence around that area to keep the horses out. Eventually that mulch will break down and it leads to all sorts of fantastic results, as we will show you later. So you get free grass seeds and you're providing an environment where they can grow really well. So it's a win-win situation. You could spend hundreds or more on grass seeds, or you can get them free in old hay. Another thing you can do, and we've done it very successfully in the past, is mulching with round bales, and it works really well if you've got 2 or 3 horses per round bale. In this scenario here, we have 4 horses eating this round bale. If you look at the back of the photograph here, you can see bare patches. And this is what the whole pasture was like, just bare patches, compacted soil, not growing much pasture at all. So you pop a round bale in there and basically let the horses get on with it. It appears that they waste some, but at Equiculture we don't consider this as wastage, rather as an investment because it covers the soil with an area of invaluable mulch. In financial terms, a round bale costs about a third less than the equivalent weight of small square bales. So if they waste a third, then you've broken even anyway. However, as I said earlier, it's not wasted as it's providing free seeds and at the same time protecting that soil and starting to improve that soil. So it makes economic sense to do that. If you can, obtain round bales of a plant species that you want growing in your pasture, because they will do. You feed the horses the round bale, they eat the round bale, and when it's time for another, you put in another round bale in the next bare patch. One thing you do need to watch for though is that if you have really wet or humid conditions, some of the hay can go mouldy if it takes a while to eat the round bale. So if you only have one small pony and a large round bale, it could be many weeks before the pony gets through that round bale. And in wet, humid conditions, the hay will start to go mouldy. But usually 3 or 4 average-sized horses will get through a round bale in 5 to 6 days. So there isn't time for it to go mouldy. But do watch for it in wet, humid conditions. So, once you've fed round bales on the bare patches and the whole area is covered, you remove the horses and let the mulch break down. That area is not going to start breaking down until you get some rain. So if you've got a prolonged dry period, it's fine to go around that area 2 or 3 times with hay and just layer it on even thicker and thicker. But once it starts to rain and once the moisture starts to get into the hay, it starts to break down rapidly, and that's when you remove the horses from there, because you don't want them walking around on that area as they will just churn it up and will uproot any new grass that's starting to grow. Then, once that mulch breaks down with all the seeds in it, you get this happening. So you can see the grass here that's grown. We've gone from this to this to this, just by feeding the horses on round bales on bare soil. That's the magic of it. It's so effective, but remember, once it starts to get wet and starts to break down, you do need to get the horses out of there because they'll churn it up and damage any new plants. Another benefit is that they drop manure in that area. Manure is an added bonus. I know some people don't see the benefits of manure, but it's a fertiliser, and that is yet more organic matter to add to the soil. Remember, most gardeners love horse manure for both its organic content and the nutrients it adds to the soil. Don't be frightened of them eating around the manure because they're not going to do that. They just eat the hay, and when the hay gets down to a certain level, they signal to you to bring some more hay out, usually by standing at the gate and staring at you, and they then move on to that fresh bale. So manure adds vital extra organic material and extra nutrients. It's a good idea to keep a bag of desirable pasture seeds handy, some that will add to and complement the species you already have. Once the seeds start to germinate, then grab some more pasture seeds and scatter them by hand in the decomposing mulch. They will also germinate and you'll get a more biodiverse sward, which is what you really should be aiming for in your pasture. Let's look at some of the benefits of mulching when combined with the Equicentral System. Here you can see an overgrazed pasture. You can see bare patches on there, and it really needs some TLC to get it back up to how it should be. But by applying mulch and using the Equicentral System practices at the same time, this is the result. A fantastic outcome, I'm sure you'll agree. Just by using old hay and better horse and land management, it's really turned that pasture around. It also works in wet conditions. This set of pictures is from the Northern Hemisphere, the UK, showing a typical muddy gateway in the winter that's spreading right out into the paddock. Very wet and not very pleasant for the horses or for the horse owners. Again, after a short space of time, this is how the land looks. This picture is taken the following winter. As you can see, it's much better. The third picture shows the biodiversity present in the summer. Wouldn't you rather be looking at that than mud? Here is more mulching in action. This pasture's been mulched and you can start to see the new grass coming through the mulch as it starts to break down. This picture here shows mulch used to suppress weeds. This pasture is full of weeds, or was full of weeds. We can see that mulching's been very effective because there's new grass growing through the mulch and there's no weeds in that area. So that mulch has allowed the grass to grow in it and to get in front of the weeds and to smother any weeds that were already there. Again, an effective tool for managing weeds. Here is mulching happening naturally in this stable. This stable hasn't been used for a couple of months. They've been used over the winter, then left for the summer. If you look at the back of this stable here, mulching is occurring quite naturally, and that's what the seeds in here are trying to do all the time. So all you're doing when mulching is helping it to help you by putting it in the areas where you need it to be. It would work just as well if you cleaned this stable out and throw that on some of the areas on your pasture and left it there to rot down, to break down. You're going to get exactly the same result from what is just a waste product. It's great for problem areas such as slopes. So by mulching across a slope, you're creating a barrier, and when it rains the water is slowed. So it stops the soil from being washed downhill into the waterways. And the mulch also traps any soil and nutrients further up the land, reducing nutrients being washed away. Again, it all adds up to improving your pasture by stopping the soil and nutrients getting washed away, keeping them on the land where they're meant to be. It's great for rocky or treed areas. In this picture here, you can see how this area on the right has reasonable soil and could grow some pasture. However, this area here on the left was just rocks and sand. But by mulching this area, by using round bales to mulch up and down this area over several months, then pulling the horses out of there once the weather changed, the mulch starts to break down. New soil was created. As the mulch decomposes, it creates new soil, which then grows new pasture. So don't underestimate the magic of mulching, especially in problem areas. In this area here, you can see it's quite badly eroded or degraded. There's not a lot of soil left. The owners of this land are mulching and letting the magic of mulch do its thing. Mulching protects the soil, adds more organic matter, provides additional nutrients, adds seeds, and creates a good environment for them to germinate and thrive. It allows more grass to grow and recreates soil, so it's a win-win-win scenario. Just by using hay or using old or discarded materials. It's a really effective and inexpensive method of soil protection, soil improvement and pasture improvement. We have a free mini course about horse grazing characteristics which you can get by subscribing to our website mailing list. There's a link below. This course will teach you all about the things that your horse would really like you to know, so make sure you sign up. If you've enjoyed this video, please let us know by liking it. Subscribe and share with your fellow horsey friends, and please leave a comment with what you found interesting. If you're interested in learning more about better horse management by learning about what is really important to your horse,
We also have a private Facebook group, but do the course first and see if this interests you.